From First Paw Media, sponsored by First Paw Coffee Company, this is the Dog Driver Show. Visit our website at dogworksradio.com. Now here are your hosts, Robert Forto and Parto.
This episode of the podcast is brought to you by First Paw Coffee Company, specializing in private label premium blend coffee. If you're serious about coffee, you should check it out. First Paw Coffee's passion is high-quality, small-batch roasted coffee. They take the extra time to taste and get everything perfect before they release new blends. They aim to bring you a cup of happiness each time you pour yourself some coffee. Find out more at ak.dog/free and enter for a chance to win some First Paw Coffee prizes, a book from our collection, and tote bag. One winner will be selected at random each month. That's ak.dog/free.
From First Paw Media, sponsored by First Paw Coffee Company, this is the Dog Driver Show. Visit our website at dogworksradio.com. Now here are your hosts, Robert Forto and Parto.
Hello and welcome everybody. This is Robert Forto and you're listening to the Dog Driver Show. I'm joined by my co-host, Parto. Koresh, how's it going?
I'm doing excellent. Rainy day in Alaska today, but even a rainy day is a good day in Alaska, right?
It is a good day. We're looking forward to the start of mushing season. I have a question for you before we get started. Have you started training yet for the season?
Yes, a few trainings already with the yearlings and with the main crew at the Chugiak track. Yes, absolutely.
Excellent. I look forward to getting our dogs out this week for sure. But we're going to be talking today from a musher that's calling in from Belgium. Her name is Tessa Philippaerts. She is a sprint musher. KP, what do you know about Tessa?
Tessa, she is an athlete in a completely different branch of our sports, which I'm not very familiar with, is canicross. Tessa, tell us a little bit about your sport and what you do with your dogs.
I kind of started out around 12, 13 years ago with my first dog. In the beginning, my father didn't want us to have a dog, so it took a while of me nagging his head off until he decided to get me a dog. And it was basically actually a dog to accompany me on training runs. And because I used to do only track and field, I didn't do canicross when I really started. In the beginning, it was only running without a dog. Then my father, he kind of found out that there is this sport where you could run with your dog, and he thought I should give it a try, and then that's how I got rolled in. And my first dog was not a typical sled dog. My first dog was a whippet. So she was not really made for pulling, but she was actually doing a really good job. And then like after a while, I started to buy another dog. My second dog was called Yukon, and he was like the first sled dog mix, like Alaskan Husky mix, and he was actually really good. He was quite a character. And so I kept growing with the sports actually, and together with my dog Yukon, I also won my first big championships. And now actually we are having 4 dogs in total. So you see, it kind of grows. And I think 4 for us is like the maximum. But that's a little bit how we got started.
Tessa, for our listeners, a lot of us in Alaska, we are not very, very familiar with canicross in general. I'm certain that is probably the most physical part of our sport because none of us usually, other than the skidurers, get really, really physical behind the dog team. In a 4-6, we kick a little bit behind the sled, but as the team gets bigger and bigger, the dogs are doing more and more. In canicross, first of all, what type of training do you give for your own personal body and yourself before you get started with the dog?
I don't really train that often in canicross with my dogs. I usually train them with a bike or a scooter, or in winter with skis and the book and even a sled. I also have a sled. But I kind of train a lot alone myself, and maybe like one time every 2 weeks I try to run with them. But I do a lot of interval training. I do a lot of endurance training, and I basically have many of those trainings. The dogs are with me, so they usually run free, and so then they have like some free running training when I'm out running. And some days I train them with the bike or the scooter, because it is just like you said, it is pretty hard on the body. I remember the first times I raced with Yukon, I couldn't walk for 5 days. And every time I came on a Monday in at work in Belgium, my colleagues, they would just say like, "Oh, you have been running this weekend."
Because you couldn't walk, right?
I couldn't walk. I couldn't walk. I looked like a penguin, I think. Yeah.
What type of distance do you run and you train yourself?
I kind of train for. I like to do. I still like to do track and field, so I train for like 800 meters on the track, because I think that's more or less the speed that I can run with my dogs also. So it kind of fits together. If I train for 800 meters, we also need to run a lot of kilometers in a week, but I can run a 5-kilometer race with my dogs, more or less at the same speed that I can run 800 meters without a dog. So it is interesting though. To see which type of training is best for running with the dogs, because it is just something different from track and field also.
For people like myself who are not very knowledgeable with the canicross, for years I thought you jog behind your dog, and but it's very competitive. It's very tough. Tell us a little bit about the equipment. I've seen your pictures on the social media. You have compression socks. You have harnesses that goes around your back and your belt. Tell us about the equipment that you use.
Yeah, it is very important to use the right equipment if you are trying to get to the top, or how do I say, or try to run as fast as possible. Because I remember in the beginning when I started with canicross, we had like just this basic like padded belt that went around your waist, and it would just pull full on your back. And then afterwards they started to make this belt with like these leg straps, so that it could like sit a little bit lower on the hips. And then nowadays we have like this super belts that don't weigh almost anything, and that do not restrict like the natural running movement. And so there's like actually canicross belts that are out now on the market. So we're for every different branch of the sport. Like for ski touring, we use a different belt than for canicross over here. Everything is like very aimed competitive, and it is a difference. Some people are like, "Oh, the belt is a belt." No, it's not true. So we have the special belt, and then like in all the other, like in ski touring, we also have this rubber line that connects us to the dog, and the dog also has a proper fitting harness. And over here we even started to make these harnesses that are made for like higher pulling points, because a lot of people only know about the X-Pack harnesses. And over here, for example, we have like the free motion harness or some other type of harnesses that are made to pull from a higher point. So it is very competitive here, actually. I think also on a race, for example, in Belgium, we have between 150 and 350 participants, only starting in canicross, bike tour, and scooter one-dog competitions.
So earlier you learned about First Paw Coffee Company, and now I'm going to tell you about its Tail Wagger Blend. First Paw Coffee Company's Tail Wagger Blend is their first offering, and its name and label were crowdsourced from their Facebook fans. How cool is that? The Tail Wagger Blend is a private label premium blend that was developed just for them. It is a medium roast from Colombian beans with tastes of Brazil nuts, grapefruit, and oak. Be sure to go to ak.dog/free and enter to win a bunch of cool prizes. That's ak.dog/free.
Tessa, if we could go back just a second, it's kind of a two-part question in regard to the equipment and also your dogs. You had mentioned that you started out with a Whippet, and
Yes.
I'm familiar with the breed, but I don't think a lot of our listeners are, but that is not a typical sled dog by any imagination. How did you find proper equipment for that structure of a dog? Because they're much different than the typical Alaskan Husky.
Yeah, in the beginning it was pretty hard because there was not much. When I started out 13 years ago, there was not much sled dog equipment in Belgium, especially because at first there is no snow, and secondly there was not many people doing sled dog sports in Belgium at that time. I think on a race back then everybody knew each other. It was like 20-40 people starting that day. So in the beginning we had like these half harnesses that like stop halfway the back. That was basically what she used for a long time, until I found this guy that made harnesses on the dog. So he came and like measured her up, and then I had like this X-pack that they specially made for to fit the Whippet. So it was a little bit funny though. But yeah, it is important to have a proper harness for your dog.
So my next part of that question is, what was the cause for the transfer from the Whippet to the Alaskan? You know, most people will say competitive advantage, or was it something different for you?
It was that time. I think I just like started on Facebook to get in contact with mushers, but I didn't really know that some people were mushers. I just thought that they had nice dogs. And I didn't know back then it was called like an Alaskan Husky or a Euro Hound or whatever. I think in Belgium back then we started to have like the first Greysters, it's Greyster type of dogs. So I didn't even know that they were really existing until I saw a guy that was selling 3 puppies that were 7 months old on Facebook, and I just kind of fell in love with one of them, and yeah, that one was Yukon. So I only got them when he was like 11 months old. But yeah, back then I didn't even know that it was what I was buying was like a real purpose-bred sled dog, basically.
Tessa, what we've noticed here in Alaska, in the United States, and probably throughout Europe, is the micro kennels and the monosport basically type of mushing are increasing year after year. Like you mentioned a few minutes ago, maybe 10 years ago or 15 years ago, there were 20 people running canicross, and now 200 or 300 people. Why do you think this evolution in our sport?
I think it is because if you want like a large kennel with a lot of dogs, first you like over here it's very hard to have the space to have that many dogs. B, it just costs a lot of money also. And I think canicross and like bike and scooter, 1 or 2 dogs, it is very accessible for everybody. People who live in a city, they can basically have 1 dog and they can start to do canicross, train in the center park or whatever. And it doesn't cost that much to buy equipment for 1 dog. And for canicross, basically, you only need a good pair of running shoes and some running clothes, and then you're off. If you want to do like some other sports with, like for example, sled or kart, then you need, or even bike, you need a lot more equipment. You need a bike. A bicycle is already much more expensive than a pair of running shoes.
Okay, Tessa, I have a question in regard to what you're talking about in terms of those micro kennels. How are sled dog kennels accepted in Europe and UK, you know, the area there? I know you're in Belgium. What is the public perception of sled dogs and sled dog sports over there in Europe?
Yeah, for example, in Belgium, it depends where you live. Some villages, they say that you're only allowed to have maximum 5 dogs. Starting from 5 dogs, you have to ask permission you just have to ask permission to the mayor, basically, in the village, and ask if you're allowed to keep more dogs. If they say yes, then it's okay. But they also like look where you live. Probably if you live on like near a field where you don't bother too much people, I think it's easier to get to get it allowed to have more dogs than if you live like in the middle of the city center.
So you,
but I don't really know in other countries in Europe how it is there, but in Belgium anyway, it's that way.
So Tessa, you mentioned you just asked the mayor. Is it just sort of on a whim whether he's having a good day or not, and you walk into his office and say, I want to have 5 dogs, and he says yes or no, and that's the end? Or is there some type of application process or something like that?
Yeah, I think it's some type of application process. I have never had to do it because I never had that many dogs at home. But I've heard from other friends that had sled dogs that they had to ask it.
Tessa, you're among the elite of the sport in that category. Tell us a little bit about your best races, your goals, and your achievements.
My best races, it's a little bit hard to say because there has been many already in 13 years, but the ones that like are printed in my mind is probably my first World Championship with Yukon. It was 2011, I think. Yeah, I was still running in like the last year of the junior category, and I had him for only about 3 months at home. So we didn't have him for a very long period. And my father kind of figured out that there was a World Championship at 3 hours from where we lived in Germany. So I said, like, maybe it's fun for you to go and try out, and because since it's this nearby, it's a good opportunity. And so we tried it out, and I didn't know how fast I could run with him. We didn't train enough together, but I was motivated to start. And so we came there, and I came from track and field, so I was running in like this almost swimming suit outfit. So I think, and it was around 0 degrees, but that's how we do it. And in track and field cross country races, people run in like this top and this swimsuit pants, and everybody was kind of staring at us. It was really funny. And we just started to run, and once you run, you're not cold, so I didn't really care. And we came to the finish line, and everything was going great. And I think we ran that day, it was around 2.5 kilometers, and I think we ran around 21.5, 22 kilometers an hour. That's the fastest that I ever ran in my life. So I was kind of shocked to see that we could run that fast. And then the second day, we had to start again on the same trail. But apparently somebody forgot to tell us that we were supposed to run a long trail, but they forgot to tell me that the trail got shortened and that it was back to the same distance as the first day. And even at the start, they made a mistake. They were waiting for one of the last junior boys to start, but he didn't show up, so they were kind of looking for him, and they kind of forgot that my time was already running, but I was standing there at the start, and then nobody said something until somebody yelled, "What's your bib number?" And then I said, like, "There, it's this number." And then they said, like, "Oh, Jesus, your time is running. You have to go now." So I got so angry because they let me start too late, but I just ran everything I had, and then halfway the trail, you get to hear that there's this dude standing and waving that you have to go to the left where you should go to the right. So I got even more angry because I thought they made a mistake. And so I ran even crazier to the finish line. And even with maybe, I think I lost 15 seconds at the start, I managed to run 30 seconds faster than the first day on the same trail, which meant that I ran faster than the first senior lady on the first day. And it was just totally unbelievable. I couldn't imagine that I was able to run that fast. So it was a very emotional championship for me, the first one. Even though that it was only in junior category, people always say, "Oh yeah, junior is not really a medal," but yeah, for me it was.
A great
And
moment, right? A great experience.
yeah, it was really cool because I came with like zero expectations. I didn't know we were that good. We just gave all we had, and Yukon, he was just the same. He did whatever he had to do, and he did as if he was doing it for years. He was like a real talent.
What are your plans for this year, Tessa? I believe there is a European Championship, actually World Championship in Nybro in Sweden this year. Are you participating?
Good question. I really love the trail in Nybro. We were there last year for the European Championships, and I did apply to go, but problem is that I couldn't do any selection races in Belgium since I live in Norway now. But they gave me the chance to start, but in the rules it said that I will come after the ones that got selected. And I was currently standing in 4th place, and normally only the first 3 are allowed to go. So I was kind of waiting on the Swedish Federation till like end of September. I was going to know if I was allowed to start or not. But now I just read some hour ago that maybe somebody from the team got sick, and she said she would not go. So maybe, I really hope I will get her spot.
Yeah,
even though I do not like that she is sick.
Yeah,
so it is like a big question mark. So I have been training, I have been preparing, and I will hopefully know soon if I am allowed to go or not.
Any other races that you are planning to do this year?
The Norwegian Championship. It's 2 weeks before the World Championship, and it's like 10 minutes from where I live, so we have the opportunity to go and train on a track, which is really nice also. But I don't know if you guys heard about the current situation in Norway with the dogs having this virus or bacteria or whatever. So it's maybe not sure that there's any races on here soon. And it's also not sure that I am allowed to start in Sweden because they closed the border for every dogs living in Norway. So I hope they can figure it out fast, because otherwise I might drive to Sweden and have to borrow somebody's dog to be able to participate. If I am allowed to participate at the first place, everything is like a big question mark at the moment.
Tessa, I know that everybody in the mushing community is very familiar with the disease or illness that's happening in Norway there, but I'm sure a lot of our listeners are just casual fans. This is a big deal in the sled dog world. Can you tell us a little bit about it from your perspective, being over there much closer than we are here in the U.S.?
Yeah, it's a little bit weird because they can't seem to figure out what is wrong with these dogs. And it's also weird that no treatment that they have tried is like kind of working. Kind of have to like cross your fingers and wait and hope for the best. That's actually the treatment, I guess. Best treatment you have at the moment. Yeah, they do not really know if it's a bacteria, if it's a virus, or some kind of mold or fungus or mushroom or parasite, whatever. The only thing they figured out now at the moment is that is some similarities between dogs that they did some research on, and the ones that died. They took samples and trying to find like some similarities between all of them. But at the moment we do not really have that much information either, so everybody is just basically guessing. The only thing I do know is that it has been raining a lot the last weeks, and that there is like mushrooms here everywhere. I've never seen in my life so many mushrooms outside. So I guess mushrooms and molds, fungus, some type of fungus could also be one of the reasons. But yeah, I guess the only thing we can just do is wait and hope for the best and hope that no more dogs get sick.
So for folks, so Tessa,
yeah, it's not nice at all.
So Tessa, just for our fans that are listening, it's probably a very similar illness to a dog illness called leptospirosis in terms of those mushrooms that you were talking about. And folks could definitely look that up on the internet and read much more about it. KP, you had another question?
Yeah, I was wondering, you talked about training yourself. What about diet for yourself and for the dog? A lot of us, we are familiar with the diet, nutrition for our dogs, the typical raw or kibble and, vitamins and supplements. But what about yourself? Do you follow a specific diet and regiment?
Yes, I do. I have been struggling with intestinal problems my whole life, and nobody also they kind of never figured out what it was until some months ago. So I have been trying a lot of stuff, and one thing I do know is that food is just really important. They figured out first that I have lactose intolerance. So they thought okay, we found this out. They thought my problems would go better. But even with this and with really watching what I ate afterwards, I still was sick. So I got in contact with another lady who's doing canicross, and she is a sports nutritionist. And she said she could probably help me. And she had many other athletes that had some similar problems like me, and she said I could try some type of diet, and it's called FODMAP diet. It's FOD/MAP diet, and it's for people with irritated bowel syndrome. And I have been following this diet now for 2 years, and it has been an extreme change in my life, because before I couldn't train as much as I wanted, because my body would never recover. I was always on the toilet maybe 6 to 8 times a day. That was normal for me from when I have been little. I thought it was normal, but apparently it's not. So after we found out with this diet and eating, I, for example, I'm not allowed to eat now any lactose, any gluten, and I have to watch out with anything with fructose and a lot of stuff. People are interested, they can always try to look it up, what type of diet it is. But it has changed my life, and she also has been helping me a lot with regulating my protein intake, because I was eating way too little. I was maybe eating 20 grams of protein a day, and I should eat around between 80 and 120 grams a day, let's say. So it was not really uncommon that my body was feeling like it was never recovering after training, because it just simply wasn't. I have learned a lot from her, and my running has improved the last 2 years incredibly. The sport is improving every time also, so I'm trying to find ways to get better and to get back to the top, or to stay on the top. So I'm watching on my food now, and unfortunately this summer I got sick again, but now I got really sick. And then they kind of figured out here in the hospital that I also have an autoimmune disease, which is affecting my intestines. And now I will have to take a medication for the rest of my life. But with this medication, I shouldn't have any relapses of the disease, so it should be fine afterwards.
Tessa,
so that was about me.
Tessa, you are, as I said, a member of the Nonstop Dogwear team, same as I am. Do you have other sponsors you want us to acknowledge and to thank?
Yeah, I have a dry food sponsor, which I'm very grateful of that I'm having them. I have only a dry food sponsor since 2-3 years now, I think. And before I never had one, so I'm very thankful. And their brand is called Arion Pet Food, and it's a German brand, but it's made in Belgium. So that's really cool. I have some other sponsors that I would like to thank, such as Bula. Bula is making scooters and bikes, so they fixed me a bike and a scooter. I'm actually sponsored by another scooter company, and they are a Czech brand called Kolobeski Zhenisek. I have also a scooter from them, and that one I basically use a lot for training. And then I also have Mammut Dog Nutrition. They make like recovery drinks and pre-run drinks for dogs who are racing. Also really happy to have them like supporting our team. And then I have one of my friends, it's called Botta Box. The company, they made dog kennels for my car. And that's really great. Yeah, and Nonstop, of course. Nonstop has been there from the start. They are sponsoring us for over 7 years now. They are the first to sponsor us, and they keep supporting us and believing in us. So they are really great. Nonstop is like family, and actually they also are family.
Very good, very good. I've noticed lately that you are actually coaching some juniors with the Nonstop equipment also. Tell us, how important is that in our sport?
I really like juniors. I really like to see kids that are like motivated, that are just as motivated when I started, and they're so eager to learn. And compare, if you are comparing with older people, they always know it better. But children, they really listen. So I really like to coach them. And the youth is so important for the growth of this sport. Like, we need more of them if we want to keep growing and keep improving.
So, Tessa, we have time for one last question, and I think it's going to relate to what you just said about the juniors. But we always ask that same question. It is, if somebody were to come to you and ask for one piece of advice that's getting involved in dog-powered sports, what would you tell them?
I would tell them that they have to have fun. I think that's the most important thing. If you don't have fun in what you're doing, then you will not keep it up. And if you don't have fun, it also affects the dogs. If you are too stressed or too competitive, they can feel it. They usually don't run as good as you want. But if they feel that you're having fun, they are having fun also.
Excellent. Well, Tessa, thank you very much for joining us today. Tessa Philippaerts calling in from Belgium. KP, anything in closing?
No, Tessa, I wanted to thank you for this interview. We learned a lot about you, about your passion, your dogs, and your sport, and we appreciate athletes like yourself telling us more about their passion. Good luck to you with the racing season, and I hope to talk to you soon.
Yeah, thank you very much for the invite. It was very, very much fun to be on the show.
Excellent. Thank you very much, and we'll see you guys next time. Goodbye.
Yes. See ya. Bye.
This episode of the podcast is sponsored by First Paw Coffee Company. Learn more at firstpaw.coffee.
From First Paw Media, this is the Dog Driver Show. We hope you enjoyed this podcast, and we invite you to subscribe in Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, or wherever you get your podcasts. You'll find a link on the episode notes. You can tap or swipe on the episode cover art, and you can see some offers from our sponsors. You can support our show by supporting them. If you like what you have heard, we would love it if you could give us a 5-star rating and tell your friends how to subscribe too. Your hosts are Robert Forto and Parto. Our producer is Robert Forto and created for First Paw Media.